Welcome to Helping Organisations Thrive. Today, I have the great pleasure of Jasmine Harrison on the show. Good morning to you, Jasmine.
Good morning.
Good to see you. And now I'm going to tell people why you're on the show. You, at the age of 21, which was last year, you became the youngest woman in the world to row solo across the Atlantic Ocean. In fact, you're the youngest female to row solo across any ocean. It took you 70 days, 3 hours, 48 minutes to be precise. And after hallucinations, sleep deprivation, hunger, injuries, capsizes, a near miss with a drilling ship, just to name a few of your challenges along the way, and a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, you made it to the finish line and sort of got a world record, which is fantastic. And I'll say, well done to you. And that's just amazing. It must have been a great elation at the end. How did you feel when you finished and got to the end of that race?
It was an amazing feeling, but there was so much else happening at the same time that it's difficult to really focus on the sort of celebratory part of it because I was always I'm not done yet. I've had 70 days to prepare for this, but I'm not done. I'm not done until Argo, my boat, is also safe. Like at that point, crossed over the finish line, but you're still drifting at sea. You're close to land. You're holding flares in the air that are burning through my skin. There's so many other boats around and so much noise, and I didn't really know. Sort of, you can see rocks and sort of everything around, and I was like, I'm not done yet. I'm panicking too much about Argo, like literally going on the rocks. I'm like, I've made it this far. So I wouldn't say it was the most relaxing sort of experience. But when you actually made it, stepped off on land, and sort of stood there, it's so overwhelming because you also don't know what to expect. Because I got told people can't be there because of COVID, but then they were. You know what I mean? And it was like, oh wow, this is actually this is special.
So when did it sink in? Did it sink in when you got off the boat, or was it sort of a few days, weeks later? When did that sort of mammoth, sort of epic sort of challenge of getting a world record and accomplishing a solo row across the Atlantic?
I don't think it has even sunk in yet. Like everything is just sort of continued moving forwards in every different sort of aspect. So it was when I reached land, it was like, oh, there's all these interviews, there's all of that. So you don't actually get any sort of reflection time.
Mm.
And then by the time you sort of do and things have calmed down, you kind of have talked about it so much, you've not, it's sort of over. You know what I mean? I've not had time once I finished to sit there by myself on a beach quietly thinking. It's just been manic. There's been so many people, and that life has then moved on. And
Mm.
I don't think I'll ever sort of kind of come to the realization of what happened or what I did or anything like that. It's just, yeah, done that. Cool. Keep moving forwards. Because I don't know. I don't want to get stuck and dwell on it because I don't want to be talking about it for the rest of my life. It's just what I wanted to do.
Now, it's not every day that we all go out there and take on an epic challenge like row the Atlantic solo. Um, I'd be intrigued and just curious to know, why did you take it on? What was the why? What was the purpose? What was the motivation to go out there, not only do a challenge, but to do it on your own as well?
So there's a few different answers to that. I'm afraid it's not straightforward. Um, but there was it was the fact that I'd just seen the challenge, and at that point in my life, I felt like I needed to aim for something. I was just traveling, and I found out about this race. Thought, oh, I want to do that one day, but mainly because all my friends have been at uni already for 6 months, doing all of this, telling me about how great it is, and I was like, I've not actually got anything to work towards anymore. Like I've finished school, I've finished my A-levels. I don't know really what I want. Was traveling, but I needed a name. So chose a challenge. I thought, right, get that in my head as something to work towards because yeah, it's a name. It'll make me feel better about sort of what I'm doing, even though what I was doing was brilliant. And then it was I needed to do it as the youngest because I spoke to some people and they said if you're going to do this, the biggest issue is money because you need sponsors. Now, a lot more people are starting to do this Atlantic Row, so you need to have a unique selling point. What have you got? And I'm like, uh, I'm a girl. Is that a thing? I'm only at that point. I was like, I was only 18. I was like, is that you? Yeah. Do you want to do it by yourself? I was like, why not? I was like, okay, cool, right. So if I did it by myself, if I stay a girl and if I stay young, then I could get a world record for this. If you can say that to sponsors, they're more likely to give you money. So that was like a big push for the age thing and why I did it so sort of soon. But also, it was I wanted to do something really challenging, something that I can keep traveling and not doing much, just sort of working, sort of part-time jobs, but kind of said, yeah, but I've still managed to do this in that time as well. And I wanted to put my spare time into something that was more for me, more personal.
Mm.
Always dedicated a lot of time to swimming and to sport. And I sort of had stopped competing in that as much. Right, I've got to put it into something else. I'd love to learn something new as well. And so the why
Because you're not a rower, are you, by sort of background?
No, that's like rowing is one sport that I've never done. I've done yeah everything. I'm a big swimmer. I've even played like football, ballet, basketball, rounders, netball, hockey, literally everything. I was used to do modern pentathlon as well. So you've got the horse riding, you've got fencing, you've got shooting. Um, I literally did everything, but I'd never done rowing because I mean, there's not the rowing club closest to me is still 20 odd miles away, and it was always seemed to be a posh school thing to do. And if I told my friends, "Oh, I'm going to get into rowing," it would be I'd just get the Mickey taken out of me from sort of my background. And but this whole sort of why factor came for if I can do the hardest thing, if I can get all of these sponsors, if I can overcome every different challenge to even get to the start line, even and didn't even know that COVID was going to be there at that point, and then row my 21-foot boat 3,000 miles across the Atlantic and get a world record, then maybe everything in life will seem easy. Like I can then compare everything somebody says, "Oh, will you speak to a stage of like 300 people?" And I'm like, couldn't do that before. I don't want to do that. Why would I do that? And suddenly, you've rode an Atlantic, Jasmine. You've overcome everything that sort of told you that it wasn't a good idea, and sort of every sort like barrier to stop you from doing it. Um, and so you can get over this. You can do it. And so, yeah, I've now got a stepping point, like a benchmark in my life, which everything else
Mm.
can be compared to. And if it's easier than rowing the Atlantic, then it's going to be done. Um, yeah, it just sort of makes
That's a really good reframe. I do a lot of reframing with clients where you almost do that literally. Well, if it's I've rowed Atlantic, so speaking in front of 300 people is even easier. That's no big deal, and it helps us in our own minds. And suddenly we have that reframe going on. It's like when you do a half marathon. You've done a marathon before. Well, you think, well, it's not as hard as a marathon because it's only a half, and so you suddenly feel easier when you're running it. And so that reframe really helps you. So you got a massive reframe there, which is great. And
yeah,
so
I start doing that.
so
I
so
when
when you were obviously getting on with the challenge and obviously embracing it, getting your sponsors and everything else, was there any doubts that were crossing your mind at any point, and even before you sort of got into that boat when you set off? And how did you deal with those sort of doubts or even imposter syndrome type things? Because I'm sure you had a some along the way, or were you just completely superhuman along the way?
um, to be fair, I wouldn't call it superhuman at all. I would call it very naive. Um,
Right.
I didn't sort of I didn't realise just how sort of difficult it was gonna be, and at the time, I just
Yeah.
thought I was having bad luck, you know what I mean? Rather than I was just completely not aware of actually, like, the difficulties. So, getting to the start line, I was, like, thinking of sponsors, I thought, "Oh, there's loads of money in the world. There's loads of people that've got loads of money that would give it to me. Yeah, why would they not?" Because I have very positive thinking, like, if I was rich, I'd want to give some money to a young girl that wants to do something cool like that.
Mhm.
Um, and I was thinking, right, who's got money? What big companies are there? Right, we've got McDonald's, we've got Apple, we've got, and thinking, all right, to them guys, they've got loads of money, they'll give me some. Um, turns out the way. So it was all just, yeah, I overcome sort of everything because I had really high expectations, I think.
Mm,
And then it all just didn't come crumbling down, but I was just so sort of, it'll be fine the entire way because I didn't have a clue actually about what I should have done by a certain point. And I'd get an email from the Atlantic campaigns that organised the race and say, right, by now you should have this. Can we have the charities you're doing it for? Can we have like the type of boat you've got? And I'm like, not even there yet. Okay. So yeah, it was just very much overcoming everything was just, I've got this goal, I've got to do it. And then actually, again, it all gets put into perspective because of COVID. So it's all these challenges you had before, then didn't even matter because COVID was there. And it was like, right, even if a company wanted to give me money, then I don't want to give me money because they need it because they don't know what's going to happen. And so, yeah, I like the kind of COVID thing was the Atlantic where you compare everything to that. Like that was then the challenge.
mm.
Whereas like, and that's what companies are thinking of. They use that as an excuse. I'm like, oh, well, COVID's finished now. There's no excuse. It's like, all right, yeah, fair enough. Okay, we'll sponsor you.
So how did you overcome those challenges? I mean, obviously the naivety where you just carried on thinking everybody will just give me money, but you were faced with that times when people said no or things weren't going quite right. How did you keep pursuing that? Was it just grit? Did you learn? How did you navigate all that?
I really like to prove people wrong. So that's a big driver for me. So I remember, and I just used a lot of contacts, and it was like talk to a lot of people, and it's always them sort of refreshing, sort of outlooks into what I'm doing. So I worked in a pub, and everybody that came in, I was just chatting to them, even if I don't even know the name. They come in and say, "Oh, how's the road coming along?" And it's sort of like a really refreshing thing to be able to talk about it a lot of the
Mm,
time. So it's even just a stranger's constantly, oh, I'm doing this, and then they just give you like a little bit of advice, or just say something that maybe I hadn't thought of because I've been dwelling on it so much. Um, so I think it was just the constant sort of pressing the refresh button on it that
mm,
kept it alive, and it didn't feel like it was dragging me down at all. And so, for example, somebody came into the pub one day and then I did say, have you given up yet? And I was there like, right, because of you, I am not going to give up right now. And it was then suddenly actually tell everybody what this person said, and they're obviously going to disagree. And it sort of drives you a lot more. And so, yeah,
it's almost the negativity became sort of fuel for you, didn't
yeah,
it? Really.
I fueled off a lot of other people, and it was what other people were driving me. So, like, I didn't want to let anybody down. Once I've told people I'm going to do something, I'm definitely going to do it. So I had already told people it had been a big deal. I'm thinking I can't stand not saying what I'm going to do. I can't go back on my word. I'm somebody that
Mm,
always wants to keep a promise. And if somebody's physically said, I will sponsor you, I will give you some money, I will even, I don't want to waste the time either. They've just spent 20 minutes of their life telling me about how they think this could work or trying to
mm,
help. I don't want to waste that. I don't want them to think, oh, well, that was pointless. Every single person became like valuable. And I ended up making so many different notes. And yeah, it got overcome just from the amount of other people that were heavily involved that didn't know they were
mm,
even slightly involved. Like everything that they said, small thing that they said was huge in my mind.
mm.
Um, and yeah, it all just got pushed forwards like that.
And did as that, I guess that naivety became a bit more real and more aware as you went through to sort of get ready for the actual row itself, and you perhaps had a few doubts along the way. Did you have any at the moment you sat in that boat on the day you set off? Was there any sort of fears, or did you still have that sense of not naivety, but just didn't really? I don't know. Did fears come into you? Was there any sort? I know when I've done big events, there's always that sense of, well, I finished this. I got a little niggle of an injury. there's always an not fear. Sometimes that sense of I might not complete this, or I'm not too sure about this, or this is a real big, or I've done triathlon, Ironmans, and the swim. I was never not a very good swimmer, and so that's always my fear, is that swim start, which obviously the start of the triathlon, and so that would be my things the day before. Did you have anything going on in your mind?
Yes, but also no. So the thing that was mainly overtaking my mind was, why am I not feeling more emotion right now? So I'd just gone through all of that, and I was sat on my boat and felt completely numb. Like, there was so much noise, and you feel like you're put into a little bubble.
Mm,
And I was like, I am struggling to listen to anybody telling me anything. I remember sitting in my boat, about to be pushed off for the start, and like the race organisers being down there, there's a photo of them speaking to me. And I remember just sort of nodding, but I have no idea what they said. Couldn't tell you. Um, and I just remember just being so sort of, I want to say focused, but not, because I don't know what I was thinking about, because yeah, I was so numb. I've never had a feeling which is such a good feeling, but you don't know how to handle it. So I know, for example, if somebody close to you dies, you end up being completely numb, you don't know what to feel at all, and it's just
mm,
like, right, I feel like I should be crying, but I'm not quite crying yet. And it's so overwhelming at one time.
mm.
But I had this and the complete opposite, and that this was good. This was all a positive thing, and I was completely numb to it. And I've never had anything so sort of relieving and happy and amazing and once in a lifetime that has made me literally have no emotion to it. So I was rowing out of the start line, going past the end of the ferry dock, and just thinking, I should cry. I should make this a moment. This has to be a thing. Like, this is
Mm.
meant to be memorable. Everything is built up to this. Why am I not here? Why am I not present? Where's my emotion gone? Like, I didn't feel like I was there. I felt like I was watching somebody else do it,
Well,
which really strange feeling, because just, when will you ever sort of have that, especially everything else that you got
mm.
through, and the enormity of the past year is suddenly put down in literally a minute. So yeah, I didn't feel or really think anything. All I was thinking was, why am I not feeling anything?
That's
I'm sure.
interesting. That is interesting. It's almost like, is it the enormity of the event itself was just, I don't know, was it overwhelming? Were you perhaps in a state of shock, or who knows what was going on there? That's
Yeah.
interesting, isn't it?
And then I put it down to the fact that I had hallucinations, and I had seasickness patches on. And I said that just changed everything, because it was messing sort of with my brain and sort
Mm.
of what I was thinking and what I was like actually able to do and stuff like that. So I just blame it on that, but I don't know, thinking that that was making me so tired and not aware. Like, I was also so tired at that point. I'd hardly been sleeping, and the night before I was like a bit of a mess about it, and I was thinking, right, okay, thinking, oh, it's going to be so bad tomorrow, and it just wasn't. So I'm going to blame every other factor.
Now, obviously, you had to row, obviously, the 3,000 miles, which is a challenge in itself, and navigate. But you had a few interesting, sort of significant challenges along the way. And I'd like to just focus on those and just understand, because we all face challenges in our lives, we all face challenges in our businesses, and it's not so much the challenge itself, it's more about how we deal with it, how we overcome it, and what we do in that moment, isn't it? That's we've all had the challenge of COVID in the last 2 years, and lots of companies have been navigating that, and pivoting and doing various things, different ways of working. Now, I think I remember from what I've looked up online, that you sort of woke up at the early hours of the morning with some sort of alarm, and you had a drilling ship that was making a beeline for you, not on purpose. I'm sure they perhaps did see. I don't know. So it'd be good for you just to explain a bit about that, how it started, but I'd be intrigued to understand about what was going on in your mind as well, and how you dealt with that.
So yeah, I have an alarm on the boat, which is called an AIS alarm. and it basically gives off my signal to everybody else to say, this is where I am, this is my GPS point. But it picks up other boats as well. So if one comes too close to you, it will sound. Now, it was about 20th of January, so I'd already been at sea for like 6 weeks. And the alarm's already gone off before, and it's sort of been nothing. It tells you, oh, there's a boat 3 miles away, and I can't even see it when the alarm goes off. And it went off. It had been going off a few times. You just sort of check, turn it off. And then this one particular night, I was sending a lot of videos back home to say to people, like, this is normal life, this is what it's like out on the ocean. And I said to myself, the next time the alarm goes off at night, I'm going to grab my GoPro and I'm going to video it. And so, because obviously it's not been a big deal at all. And so it's just annoying because it disturbs my sleep and it's a horrible, horrible noise. So the alarm went off, I turned off, videoed it, and I was like, right, so it's just woken me up. It's now 4 o'clock, and well, what we're going to do now, I'm going to get really angry and fall back to sleep. I'm going to check that it's there. I sort of really dozily, because I've only been to sleep at 2 o'clock, sort of looked at my map, and you can hear me on the camera go, oh, well, that's fairly close to me, actually. I should maybe do something. And it was so sort of calm. And I think a lot of it was because I was talking to the camera at that point, because I was making a bit of a video diary. And so my reaction was very much based on as though I was telling somebody else what to do in that scenario. So you've been through a lot of training and stuff. And I sort of said, right, let's radio them. And try and radio them, nothing happened. It's like, and there's a video of me saying, look, that's where they are, this is where I am. Let's go out of the cabin and actually see them. And I did. And it comes out of the cabin, you're like, wow, okay. And I was turn the camera off, tried to row out of its way, tried to do as much.
So it was quite close, wasn't it? I mean, in terms of, and because obviously a big tanker can't slow down slowly because the alternative you move quickly.
So yeah, the alarm sounded when they were, I think it was 2 miles away, something like that. It basically was 6 minutes till impact.
Wow.
So I think they were 2 miles away, and I tried to row just so they wouldn't make contact, but going sideways onto the waves that night, it would have capsized me. So I couldn't really do that, and I didn't have enough time to do it at a gradual angle. So I was like, right, see if I can get my flares, see if I can light them, because then they can see me a little bit more, and then it tells them I'm here, don't hit me. But again, you're worrying which colour flares, and suddenly trying to remember that, revision going, right, it's white flares, we need white flares. Red flares is danger, help me. White flares is I'm here, go away. I'm trying to remember this at 4 o'clock in the morning, but trying to speak it out loud as well. But it's cold, you're scared, I couldn't stop shaking. I was so tired, and I managed to contact them on the radio just last minute, to the point that the last time I measured on my navigation how far away they were, it was 0.2 miles when I made contact, and they then started to turn. So we ended up being quite close. Can't tell you exactly how close, but I know it was 0.2 miles when they first started to turn.
That's not far away, is it? That's not far away.
No, it's really not. When they're traveling at 8 knots and I'm traveling at 1 knot, they are gonna catch up very soon. So it was literally last second. I didn't want to push that anymore, but it was, I think, my sort of mental state through that. Again, I want to put everything to just at the time, rather than this is how I'm made, this is what my brain is, because I know that I'll react to the same scenario probably differently if it happened 10 times over. I'd react different every single 10 times. So this time it was all very scenario based on that. I already had my camera running, and I was treating it as though I was talking to somebody else of what I would do, because this is my vlog. I've got to get it right. This is
was that helpful? Do you think did that create almost a second person or third person view?
Yeah,
I guess
I think so. It's almost like when you talk things through with somebody, even though they don't say a word, just because you've said it out loud, it kind of makes more sense. And so I was saying it out loud, And yeah, I wasn't getting a reply, but I didn't need one. You didn't have time. You've got something to deal with, and you're just sort of there angrily looking at like your phone or something, you're trying to construct an email, and then you just say to whoever sat over there, but like, does this make sense? And you read it out, and then you answer your own question and change it before they've even said anything. And
Mm.
it's like you've then sorted it, but it just needed like your brain almost felt like it needed somebody else, but you didn't, and you just get that little bit of reassurance because you heard it from a fresh perspective.
Mm.
So by me not hearing it in my own head, but
Yeah.
hearing my voice out loud, especially because I've not heard my voice for a long time. I've been out there for 6 weeks. I've not really spoken.
Mm.
I've spoken on the phone, but it's suddenly an outside voice that's saying things, and you're like, oh, huh, look at that, another human.
Mm.
I've got to listen to them. So it was, yeah, really, and I didn't mean for that to happen. It just happen by chance.
And that's
That
because you wanted to make a vlog of it just to show what was going on because you'd done it
Yeah.
previously. And were you feeling, was there anxiety, panic? What was your state of, was a sense of stress or by the fact you were doing this third person piece, did that sort of change your sort of state as well?
Um, Yeah, I just remember being so worried. I was so kind of nervous, and it was more, I knew everything when I'm out at sea, you've been there for 6 weeks, you know your boat, you know everything about it, you know every different noise that it's going to make, and sort of movement and where it's going to go. So I had never heard this particular alarm before, so it sounded again, and I was on video at the time, and you can literally see my face when the noise changes. You go, "Oh my gosh, what is happening?" And the sheer sort of panic that overcomes me. Um, it was another level of like, okay, I don't know what to do now. So I was definitely very worried, but I think again, I was so tired that that sort of changed everything else. I became very calm. I was really sort of, right, we'll do this, we'll do that. But it's actually because I didn't have the energy to sort of worry massively.
Mm.
I was all very sort of calm and internal worrying and distress rather
Mm.
than sort of panic, throw your arms around, what do I do? Shout and scream. And it was
Mm.
sort of like, oh, this is happening. Okay. And I think that was literally based on the fact that I was so tired because I hadn't stepped then for a few days because it'd been rough weather. I
Mm.
was trying to just row out of it. And this was like my first couple of hours sleep that I'd had for it. And I was planning on having a solid 6 hour sleep. And
Mm.
I was like, oh, this is annoying. We can't get angry because I just don't have the energy to get angry. So yeah, it was all sort of, I don't want to say chance, but I don't know still how I would react if that happened again and sort of factors were different. If I
Well,
was,
there's some really good lessons there, though. I mean, the fact that obviously you have some sense of ways of working when these things happen. Obviously, you went through a process. Obviously, that's important. Obviously, in a business, to if you anticipate certain challenges ahead, we put processes in place, standard operating procedures, whatever you want to call them. But obviously, sometimes when that happens, it's the emotion piece and the fact that you did this speaking out and was like filming it. I have a lot of clients who, when they share stuff with me, and I do a lot of asking questions, and they share when they hear themselves. There's something about hearing ourselves when you speak out, whether it's a big challenge you're going for. When you speak it out, it comes back to you, and you hear it, and the fact that you've not really spoken much because you were on your own. There was some sort of power in that, and almost you third personed it as well, which probably felt that you were almost looking on the situation as well. You almost created a different probably perspective, I guess. It's interesting, almost that vlog which you just said you were going to do if it happened again actually probably helped you manage it in a better way, which is interesting, isn't it, to learn from that.
yeah, definitely. Because again, it was for me, I didn't, I was so worried about what everybody else thought about me because I knew there was a lot of people following it. I needed to get it right on the camera because I didn't want anybody to think that I was stupid or did something wrong or anything like that. So it's almost the worry of letting people down back home.
Mm.
I didn't want.
Did you ever question not just that situation, just any time on the trip, your why? As in, why am I here? What am I doing? And I don't know. Did that and did how did you help you sort of get back to that? Because our why is the source of energy, isn't it? The source of motivation.
Yeah, so I did think that quite a lot, but it wasn't why am I here? It was more why is this happening? What have I done to make this sort of bad situation be here? So within the first few weeks, I had some horrendous weather, like really, really bad, and it was pushing me so much in the wrong direction. I need to put out something called a power anchor, which is literally a parachute which acts as an anchor and sits 100 meters below you in the water to hold you pretty much still. But um, the that I was still going backwards on that, so I would go miles and miles backwards. I'd be sat there for a few days, but then lift it up and try and get rowing to make some progress. And I'd row like literally 18 hours because as soon as I let go of my oars, I would go backwards straight away. I couldn't even stop for a drink, couldn't do anything. You've got waves coming over the side, hitting you in the face, just the splash from every single wave hitting the boat. So uncomfortable, so sort of miserable because it wasn't sunny either. There was nothing there, just huge waves coming from all directions. And I'd spend so long just rowing constantly, row for 18 hours. I'd sleep for two. And in them 18 hours, I made 6 miles progress. And I went to sleep for 2 hours and I lost 4 miles. And it then took me another 12 hours to gain back what I'd just done. So I've just been rowing for literally an entire day pointlessly. And
How do you pick yourself up? That feels quite soul destroying when you're rowing. You make a little bit of progress, sleep, and you almost go back again. That must be. How do you keep going with that? Because that is hard work, isn't it?
yeah, I had no other option. It was, there's going to be I always think it can be worse. No matter your situation, it can be worse. And so I compared it
Is
to
that what
this.
you think? You said it can be worse than this.
Yeah, I said, if I don't row this now, if I don't gain it back again, it's gonna keep on getting. And in my head, I had that this storm was in this particular area, and I needed to just make myself clear of it. As soon as I was clear, it was going to be okay. And so it was just get clear of the storm, keep going, keep going, keep going. And I did. I managed to get clear of it, but it was the most frustrating thing. And yeah, I couldn't understand why it was happening. So I was rowing, and I'd scream at the sea, "What are you doing? This is so unfair!" Literally just crying, having an absolute tantrum at the sea. "What are you doing? I don't want you to do," like another wave coming over. I was like, "Why have you done that? What are you doing? You're meant to be over there. Stay in the sea. I'm a boat. I'm on the boat. Stop putting water in my boat." Like shouting every sort of angry thing and just using that anger to fuel me the entire
Wow.
way. I like I felt not it wasn't me, and it kind of turned it into a bit of a comedy sketch that everything I was almost acting to be somebody that you'd see in a film that was
Right.
just, that angry
Did
person.
you did you feel that sense of not humor, but a sense of making it funny or making laughing at it almost as a situation?
Yeah, I was so angry that I could feel myself laughing at myself. Like, really internally, I could feel like I'd be there and it would just be another thing. So I've just dropped my oars, gone to get a drink or something, sit back and just think, and you realise you've forgotten something, and you're like, why can't I do it? And it's like, and I could just shout at the fact that the sun came out and I needed glasses on. I'm like, and now you decide to come out when I've just sat back on my seat and I haven't got my glasses. My glasses are over there. What are you doing? And I just get so angry at everything. And it would turn into, yeah, it would be me laughing at myself, but very internally. I wouldn't be able, even if I told myself, oh, you must be laughing at yourself. I'm like, I'm
Mm,
not. I'm really not. I'm so angry. Um, and so it was just, yeah, I used a lot of anger to fuel it and knowing that I've just got to get clear. Keep going, keep going.
mm,
Once you get clear, then you can sleep, you can do everything. But also, this is a story. This is what you wanted. You knew it was going to be challenging. You wanted big waves. You got big waves. Like this is an experience, even if the rest of the ocean's flat calm, you've had this day. And that's the thing is, you don't know what's going to happen or how long you're going to be out there. So
Mm.
it's sort of each day is like that for a reason. But I just couldn't quite understand that reason at the time. I was just questioning everything like, why is this happening to me? What have I done? Did I not row enough yesterday? Is that why you're doing it? Is it because I decided to eat that chocolate bar that I was trying to save? Is that why you're punishing me with this awful weather? And then a wave had hit you in the face. You're like, that's my answer. Thanks. Um, so yeah,
It
it's
sounded
kind
it
of
sounded like, it's like all these things, isn't it? It's the journey itself, isn't it? Like each day you were sort of probably internally sort of, I say, enjoying, probably persevering, but it's, I think often we get caught up with the big goal, don't we, at the end of the line, which is obviously to complete it. And clearly that's important, but
yeah,
actually we've got to take each day at a time and be in the moment. And you end up bringing some comedy into it. You're angry, you're healthy with your emotions, shouting at things, shouting at the sea, um, and almost start to capture that day. This is what I'm here for. This is a challenge. That's really healthy. Was there any moments along that trip that you thought, I'm not going to make this?
no, I don't think so. There was a lot of moments where I did the maths. I spent a lot of the time doing maths. Exactly, if I go this speed, what will I get per meter per day if the weather conditions are going at this? And I sat there doing a lot of maths, and it was realizing, if I went this slowly, I would make it in 150 days. If I went this slowly, it's only 100 days. Okay, but if I actually put in a bit of effort and I carried on like that, I went, oh, I could make it in 50 days. I go, I can't do that. Carry on. I'm shattered. Um, so it wasn't ever, I'm never going to make it. It was, I will make it, but just eventually. And then it
Yeah.
was, you do the maths at a certain speed, and then it's how many chocolate bars do I have? I've got plenty of food, I just don't want to eat it. How many chocolate bars do I have for this amount of time? Okay, how many, sorry, knowing how many scoops of Nutella I've had out of a jar, thinking, if I had half a scoop every day, maybe my last 4 jars will be there the rest of the journey. And it was a lot of thinking like that. Never, I'm not going to do this, I'm not going to make it. It was, I'll be there, just wait. You know what I mean?
Wow, that's incredible. That you just, it was just the timing and the, rather than the actual whether you're going to make it or not. So you're completely confident in some shape or form that you were going to deliver on it. It's just a matter of time.
Yeah.
What did you, what surprised you about you during that trip?
Um, I think the biggest thing was actually a bit of a state that I got in with the food. So I just mentioned that briefly. And I thought that I'd be so hungry, I'd eat everything all the time. And I've never been particularly fussy either. But I really struggled to eat. So for somebody that's always, I've enjoyed food, I like it. I spent a lot of time trying to put on weight before the row. Um, and I was really sort of thinking about the different meals that I was going to take, and I'll have this on this day. This is how I'm going to do it. I'm not going to start my next snack pack until I finish my first one, because obviously I'm not going to take things with me that I don't like. Um, but my sort of capacity to be able to make myself eat was awful. I just literally didn't eat for days. I would eat um, protein bars, so 9 bars, and like Nature Valley bars and stuff like that, um, and just chocolate. So I'd have a big 100 gram dairy milk bar in a day, and I'd have about 2 protein bars, and that would be it pretty much the entire time. And I'm rowing like at least a minimum 12 hours every single day. It's more like 15 hours a day. And I just couldn't physically eat anything else. I had all this food, like proper food that was dehydrated that I put stuff in. I'd make it and I couldn't eat it. No matter how hungry I was. Like I was literally at the point of starvation. I was so hungry. And I was thinking of every different food about how much you could just devour it. But something in my brain had just stopped me from wanting to touch any of the dry food.
Mm,
Just didn't want to do it, couldn't do it. And I also just couldn't be bothered to actually put water in it and to make it a meal because everything just seemed like a lot of effort because it wasn't put, everything is going into rowing. I then want to lie down and go to sleep for the rest of the time. If
mm,
I can't do it lay down, I'm not going to do it. And that's it. These bars I can eat lay down in my cabin, chocolate bars, you can do that. But you can't do that with like a chili con carne or something, you know. Because I can't make a mess in the cabin because that's where I'm sleeping. That's my entire life. Um, so it was very much, yeah, that surprised me because I know that that's what my body needed to survive, and everything would have been easier if I'd have
mm,
eaten. And I know that, and I knew that at the time, but I just could not bring myself to eat one of these ration packs. And I finished with still a full boat. And it's even just the fact that I knew that I was taking them across there and it was extra weight and it's going to make me even slower. And I just didn't eat it. And I still can't understand now why not. It just, I couldn't bring myself to do it. And it's the most baffling thing because I can bring myself to do pretty much anything. Like it's
mm,
sort of just that. And I was like, Jasmine, what is sort of wrong with you? And I have to use that as a bit of humor as well. Like, how can you do this, do that, and not want to eat that? You know what I mean? It was
mm.
just really, yeah, it was the most confusing thing. I wouldn't say I learned a lot about myself because it was just, it confused me.
Because
But
obviously you have to, it's sort of 4,000 or 5,000 calories a day you have to eat, don't you?
yeah,
Because you're burning a lot because obviously you're rowing a lot. So that is a challenge. And I know once you get past the seasickness stuff, food on any race, any long endurance race, the food bit is what usually makes people fail in terms of the nutrition, isn't it? Because they run out of energy. They haven't got any energy and they've got water or whatever it is. So that's quite important. Um, if you to, when people take on extreme goals, and looking back on this, what one lesson for you or one lesson you could share with others who are taking on extreme goals, whether that's a sporting sort of extreme goal or a business thing? What was it for you for this trip? What have you sort of took away from it as sort of one thing?
it's got to be personal to you. So, for example, I said that I spoke to a lot of different people about everything. I was trying to listen to all the different advice, but actually, it was listening to a single thing. It doesn't suit you because that's their advice. So I just learn to listen to myself and don't actually listen to a single thing that anybody else says. Because, for example, it was the big thing that crippled the start of my entire row was the seasickness patches. I got told that if you've never been seasick before on all of your training, you will be seasick on the ocean. And I thought, right. And they said, put on patches, put them on. You can do no wrong doing that. And it affected me massively and made me slow right from the start. And then I got caught in the storms and nobody else did because of the delay that I had based on these patches. Um, and so that was just the advice of somebody else that I trusted and that had done it before, that knew all of this. And because it was something that I didn't even know about, I just didn't listen to it. And so it has to be something for you. You've got to make up your own mind. And it's always make it your downfall, not having an excuse to blame somebody else for it, because
Mm,
you always will then blame yourself. Why did I listen to them? And it's like, no, make it about you. You choose, you learn for yourself, because actually, the way that if you make a decision, you can evolve it, everything else that's going to happen because you sort of had that internal plan in the first place.
mm,
Whereas if it's somebody else's plan, you don't have to adapt it. Like that's what they told you to do.
mm,
You can't do anything with that. Whereas if it's yours, without you even realizing that that's why you chose it, there is alternatives already building in your brain.
mm.
So if that's the kind of answer that you were wanting from me, was don't
No,
listen.
that's helpful. It's personalizing it, and obviously, when we're in a situation, we've got to one to take responsibility and accountability, and not to blame others, even if we might have taken advice. You took the advice. It was your responsibility to take the advice and act upon it. Is not to blame, and I think that's important. Not to is to take that responsibility and personalize it. Now, you've done an amazing thing, and it's been brilliant talking to you today. In terms of what you've done, and just kudos to you, because I think it's a fantastic achievement in itself. How young you did it as well, because I know it's not just the rowing piece; it's all the funding bit. It's a huge thing as well to do, and so yeah, well done for your world record. Now, this is probably not the last thing you're going to do, and I'd be intrigued to understand what is next, and it'd be good to sort of tell the audience what next adventure you're up for, because I think it's sort of something in you now at a very
Yeah.
early age.
Well, thank you. But yeah, I don't want to sort of stop. I want to do other cool things. I don't I don't think I realised that's what I wanted to do. It was actually just everybody saying, "What's next? What's next?" I'm thinking, "Oh, I hadn't thought about that actually. I just wanted to do the row." Um, but more sort of things that I'm thinking, like, yeah, let's push myself, but I want to push myself in different ways and maybe something that I know what I'm doing with a little bit more. So I decided that I'm going to swim from Land's End to John O'Groats, up the
as,
west side.
as you as you do.
Yeah, exactly. As I said, I'm a swimmer over anything else, definitely over being a rower. And so I'm going to try and do this. So I will
Is
be the
that clockwise or anti-clockwise?
clockwise. So I'm up the west coast, going round Wales between England and Ireland, and then up round Scotland.
Wow.
Um, Gonna set off in July or by July, hopefully, in the next couple of months. It's just getting a boat organised, getting the crew organised, and there's suddenly a lot to do in a short space of time. But yeah, I figured let's do this because one, I can swim better than I can do anything else. I'll
Mm,
enjoy it, but also I want to see more of the UK. Like I'd only ever really holidayed in the UK anyway until I went over to the Caribbean. But I want to see as much as possible. Like I feel like you should know your own country.
mm,
Because I ended up knowing each Caribbean island that I visited like the back of
mm,
my hand, and I don't even know. I know obviously the UK is a lot bigger than a Caribbean island, but I still want to have a bit more of an understanding and said that being places.
mm.
So yeah, swim up the coast of the UK and be the first female to ever do it, and it's only ever been done twice by two guys.
Well, Ross Edgley did it, didn't he? He went all the way around, didn't he?
Yep.
Yeah. And
Yeah, and there was
you
another
don't
guy.
fancy going all the way around. It's just not that I'm diminishing the sort of challenge itself, but
Um, no, I don't think so. But you never know. If I did it really quickly and I got to John O'Groats in like 2 months or something, and I still had time to go the whole way around, maybe. But
so 2 months is the sort of time scale you're looking at this.
no, I'll be looking for like 3 months. But I can only go off what other
Right.
people did. So Ross did it in 61 days. Whereas another guy, Sean Conway, that did it, he did it in 4.5 months. But that was very weather dependent. He swam for
Okay.
90 days.
Wow.
But I'm thinking if I can do it in 3 months in 90 days, on average that's 10 miles a day. But if I can do 15 miles a day, then it gives you
Wow.
time to have days out for bad weather. Um, so I've said about 3 months. It is very unknown because it's only been done twice, and obviously there was a big timescale
So
difference.
they'd be the youngest and the only female to have done this. Is that right?
Yeah, youngest first, meaning I'm the oldest.
Yeah.
Everybody. So yeah, definitely will be the first, and then potentially if somebody else, which I hope they would do, give it a go in the future, it should make me the youngest as well.
Fantastic. Well, that seems quite an awesome challenge, another stretch in a very different way. I know it's your trade as swimming is, but still you've got the tides to navigate, you've got whirlpools to navigate around Scotland, and obviously weather and just general exhaustion along the way, I'm sure. So that happens in July. So if people want to sort of connect with you, Jasmine, or follow you, what's the best way of them doing that?
So at the moment, because I've not decided exactly on a name for the swim, I'm still under Instagram. I'm Jasmine Harrison. On Facebook, I'm under Rudley Mad. My rowing name was Rudley Mad, so everything is sort of found on their website, email address, info at Rudley Mad, stuff like that. So yeah, I'm found, easily found. Instagram, Facebook is the way that I'd probably check most often.
Brilliant. Well, I'll put all those links that will be in the show notes on the podcast itself, and so people can sort of keep in touch with you and sort of follow your progress. Certainly in the swim in July, but also just what else you're doing. Really appreciate you coming on today. Really interesting and really inspiring what you've done so far, and be quite exciting to see what unfolds for the next few years with you. So thank you for coming on today, Jasmine.
No, thank you. It's been really nice to talk to you.